Welcome everyone. Speak with Sonali presents sixth episode of Neurodiversity series. We have been doing this series with Reading Kida Library Nagpur, and from there we have Dr. Pallavi Bapat Pinge, who is with us, who has been with us throughout this series, and it was a delight to have you on board, Dr. Pallavi. Welcome today. And today we are going to discuss about cerebral palsy, how we can see cerebral palsy, know about it through films and books which are just around us. So Pallavi, Dr. Pallavi, would you like to tell us what is cerebral palsy exactly?
Yes. Basically, when we say cerebral palsy, it is a developmental disorder and it is occurring due to some insult, some trauma, some damage to the developing brain. And it can occur during the later part of the pregnancy when the baby is in mother's womb, or during the delivery if there are any difficulties because of which there is trauma to the developing brain. And lastly, also sometimes immediately after birth if there are some insults. So in this way, any kind of insult to the developing brain is going to lead to cerebral palsy. Cerebral means brain, palsy means there is a delay or difficulty or damage. So that is how cerebral palsy word comes. And the damage actually depends upon the area of brain which has been affected. So it could affect the area where your upper limbs, that is hands, arms, are there, or it could affect the area where your lower limbs are represented in the brain. So it can affect both upper limbs as well as lower limbs, hands, arm, feet, like that. Or it can also affect other areas like tongue movements. That's why it might have difficulties in speech, it might have difficulties in eating. Depending upon the damage, there is the resultant disability that a child with cerebral palsy has.
Yes, so you also told us about how it looks. So whenever we see a person, if they are struggling with these things, I guess we can easily make out that yes, this person might be having cerebral palsy, unlike autism or any other disability which we have been discussing, right?
Yeah, means we can say that this is more visible because it is a physical disability which is visible easily. When we see a person with cerebral palsy, we are likely to see some kind of difficulty in walking, locomotion, difficulty in speaking, difficulty in handling things in hands. So these kind of difficulties are easily visible. That's why we can say that this is more of a visible kind of disability.
Right, right. And I
Sonali,
guess
I wanted to rather mention something over here and ask you that what kind of similarities and differences you find with respect to cerebral palsy in association with other disabilities.
Yes, it is a nice question because I remember seeing children or reading about it that at times they are having other difficulties which we call comorbidity. So at times they can have intellectual disability also, which is there along with it, right? At times they can have speech delays or speech difficulties as well. So these are the two major similarities which I find are there with other sort of disorders that we have been discussing. Am I missing on anything?
No, that's right. And rather, I would add to it, like any other disability, as the child grows, the difficulties that the child with cerebral palsy faces are different as per the age. So in a younger age group, it is more of locomotion. As the child grows, it could be related to speech, it could be related to eating. So these kind of things, depending upon how the child is developing in his span of life becoming an adult, there are different challenges that the child has to face.
Right. I guess as locomotion becomes major part of life later on when child grows, then it starts becoming difficult because that is when children are becoming independent, they're exploring their world on their own. And here with cerebral palsy, we see that they will have to be dependent on a wheelchair or other environmental supports which can enable them to explore the world. Because I was also just reading a few days ago that as we are able to access surroundings around us, that is very much dependent on, or that rather affects our self-esteem, how much we can do in a job, how much we can prove ourselves. So I think in cerebral palsy that becomes a major mental difficulty that people have to process. So should we now discuss more about the books, because I'm sure you must be excited to tell us about the books which you have explored.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we are discussing about various difficulties, so one such book that I came across was My Left Foot. So it is a book has been published in around 1960s or so, and it's by Christy Brown, who had cerebral palsy, and he was like all his hands as well as feet, all of them had the difficulty. So the function was not there. Only his left foot was functional. So this particular person used his left foot to explore art and has done various paintings using his left foot. And that's why the name of the book is My Left Foot. So it's an autobiography by Christy Brown. That is one such book that I came across. Any specific book that you would like to tell?
Yes. So when I went on reading about one book, I got led to another book, and I came to know that it was a big movement which was happening around 50s. That was happening about this spastic society. So there was a couple. They had a child with cerebral palsy, and they were staying in London. And later on, they came to India because the family is very much patriotic and they felt like giving back to the society. So as they came back, they explored that there were no resources for their daughter who is with cerebral palsy. And the mother was a special educator. She had got trained in London, and she thought of starting this school and the entire organization called as ADAPT. I think whoever is aware about cerebral palsy would have guessed that I'm speaking about Mithu Alur. And so she has done a lot of work with ADAPT as well as in establishing spastic societies across India. So that is the book which I started reading first.
Okay.
Yes, nice. It is called as A Birth That Changed Nation. Here we can read a lot about her journey of establishing ADAPT and different projects she took on, how she had to change at times her ways, her strategies, what struggles she faced, and so on. So it is a very good book which all educators and psychologists, whoever is working in disability sector, can read about. Then I think both of us know about her daughter's book, right?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Yes, it is called as One Little Finger. And you were telling me about.
Can you tell me what is the importance of one little finger?
Yes. So she has typed this entire book with her one finger. So that's how the name is One Little Finger. And so in this book, she is the daughter of Mithu Alur. Her name is Malini Chib, and she has started right from her birth. How was the diagnosis process for her parents? How was her time in London? How was her shifting back to India, and what differences she saw in the community? And how inclusive education at that time was very, very difficult and new concept. Like it did not even occur to her parents, her own parents, that is, they can think of enrolling her in a mainstream school. So that's how different time it was. And then with her and her mother's work, basically how the entire country's picture has changed about inclusive education with respect to cerebral palsy. All of that we get to see. More than that, so as I said, it was a series of books which I came to know. One book which is about, I will show it first. It is written by Arun Shaurie. And the book's title is Does He Know a Mother's Heart? So this is the
Okay.
writer's spiritual journey of exploring why children with disabilities take birth, what could be the meaning behind it, how he met other spiritual people, and he sort of tried asking them that why it happened or why does it happen with specific parents, and its spiritual pursuit basically is there. And he has explained how with Mithu Alur they started this spastic society in Delhi. So that is how this connect is there. And as many of us know, Arun Shaurie is a brilliant scholar, which is in India. And it is a must read for all parents who are having these questions about life and what does it mean and how to go ahead, right? So this was the series which I explored. Would you like to tell us about anything more that you came across? I think you were exploring something on Kindle and your experience.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So it's so wonderful to see that the three books that you mentioned are belonging to three different categories. The first one is a book by a parent of a child with cerebral palsy. Then the second one that you mentioned is One Little Finger is by a person with cerebral palsy. And the third book by Arun Shaurie actually goes into the domain of books for parents of children with cerebral palsy. Not cerebral palsy per se, in general disability. But this is how these three categories are there. So I would like to add a few more books in these categories itself. So the one I said that books by people with cerebral palsy, there I came across two books, rather two people, individuals who have cerebral palsy, and it has not stopped them to write books. One is a 12-year-old kid named Jonathan Bryan. He's from England, and he has written a book called as I Can Write, where I is basically EYE, eyes. So this kid, he has speech difficulties along with cerebral palsy because of cerebral palsy, and he has few words. So that's why he's not very verbal, and he has to use a train frame. He's using a train frame, which is actually like a picture grid, where with the help of pictures, by indicating through his eyes, he communicates with his parents and other close people. So this book also he has written using his eyes by showing it on the picture grid that what he wants to say, and the book has been written in that way. So that's a very interesting book to go through. And the another person that I want to mention is from India itself is Swapnil Jha. He has written till date 14 books, and he's a 23-year-old, and he has a series called Beyond. So there is Beyond Magic, Beyond Science. These are the titles that he has in his books. So this person also himself has cerebral palsy, and but still he has been able to write around 14 books. So this is one category that I wanted to explore. Then the other one that you said, that books by parents of children with cerebral palsy. So I'm very happy to share that I found 3 books in Marathi in this domain, because in our previous series we have been discussing this, that beyond English we are not finding examples or good resources in Hindi, Marathi, or any other regional language. But here one book named as Jhunj Niyatishi by Pratibha Hampras. So this is a struggle, a story where we are talking about Aurangabad-based mother who has to raise a son with cerebral palsy. So what are the struggles, what are the difficulties and challenges she faces as a parent have been described. Similarly, the other book that I came across is Phite, Andharache, Jale. This is by Bhalchandra Karmarkar. He is talking about his girl named Vallari, and how as parents, what were the challenges, what were the strengths of Vallari, and how their journey has been in upbringing her. It is what they are talking about. And the third book is, I'll just mention, give me a minute, is Pankhavina, Bharari. So this book is by Sharayu, Ghaadi, and she is talking about her 21-year-old son. So these are 3 books in Marathi language by parents of children with cerebral palsy. So this actually gives so much of relief also that cerebral palsy has got a good amount of representation in literature. People are talking about their experiences and they want to connect with other parents also. So this is something that I found very interesting. Then like the third category which we were talking of, that is books for parents. So it could be one that you gave example written by Arun Shaurie, or there are many books available in market which are based on therapy, based on what all you should do to support your feeding of your child, to support sleep of your child, to support locomotion of your child. So there are n number of books available in the market for that. And then the fourth category, which is my favorite, because I am part of a children's library. So I always want to find those books which are children's book and which are focusing on disabilities, because I believe inclusion is something which should begin from as early age as possible. And kids, we have been discussing it in previous episodes also, that they are not discriminated at all. So if we introduce them to different disabilities at earlier age, we hope for better inclusion of people with disabilities along with neurotypicals. So I have 3 books in that category. This is one book that I want to show. It's called Catch That Cat. It's by Tharini Vishwanath and it is by Tulika publication. So this is a very interesting book. As you could see in the, it's a wheelchair laden girl, and there's a cat also. The story is that this girl, she goes to school. She's a very naughty kid. So, and but her friend loses her cat. So she, on her wheelchair, goes around and tries to find this cat behind houses, in the dustbin, over the tree, and ultimately finds it over a tree actually. So it is very interesting to see that a child who has a disability. Oh my God, Sonali, I think today you are having a bad time.
Yes, it's all right. Excuse me for that.
Okay, so getting back to our book, so that's a very interesting book. I'll suggest that all parents around 4 to 5 years of age kids should expose their kid to this book. Then similarly, we have another one called as Wings to Fly. This is also interesting book by Sowmya Rajendran. This is again by Tulika publication, and it also surrounds around a girl who is on wheelchair but still can enjoy with her family, and what are her aspirations, what all she wants to achieve. So it's a wonderful story over there. And the third book that I have is simply Nanju. So this has been written by Zainab Suleiman, and the good thing is that this book is about an inclusive school. So other than the main protagonist Nanju, there are other children who have disabilities. So multiple disabilities are there, but this book goes beyond disability and helps us to see the child in these children, because there are the typical the problems of kids, that the child has got less marks and he is afraid to tell parents. Then there is a rivalry amongst themselves, and also having good bond of friendships, coming together and saving a friend's problem or solving a friend's problem. So these kind of simple childhood experiences have been explained in this, and it goes beyond the disability of children. So these are the 3 books that I wanted to discuss in this category.
Great. It is awesome that how you have categorized them. So it is very easy to process for our audience as well. So really thanks for doing that. And I missed one book which I wanted to show. It is called as I Am Tamanna. So it will go in the category of persons with cerebral palsy who have written about cerebral palsy and their journey. And here she herself is a educator, and she believes that that, how inclusion, that how we have been speaking about, and how the right environment can lead to a lot of process and lot of exploration of skills that the person is having and how they can get flourished. Also to mention that she is a marathon runner. So we've been talking about muscle difficulties, and it would be interesting to see that how then she managed to run a marathon, and what were the challenges, how she explored it. So it is definitely a good read, which our audience can give it a shot at.
Amazing.
Yeah, so,
That's amazing. Actually, I would really like to read that book. And like you said that we are talking about locomotion difficulties, and the person is a marathon runner. Similarly, I came across a movie wherein we have an actor who has cerebral palsy, and this actor actually met a choreographer, and the choreographer was amazed to see that how even with whatever difficulties this actor has, he still manages, he has his own style, and he is being a great actor. So she thought of doing a dance musical with this actor. Yeah, and that's why the title of this movie is Enter the Fawn, where the fawn is the character played by this actor, and how this movie actually helped him to go beyond his disability, and it has rather helped him in improving his locomotion. So something which he had been doing for years with therapy and everything, he could not achieve it, but with this particular dance show or dance musical, he was able to achieve. So it was a very terrifying as well as satisfying journey for him, and he has talked about it in this movie. So that's a very interesting movie which all of us can view it.
Yes, definitely. And I guess when we searched about cerebral palsy on either YouTube or Prime or Netflix, there were many films available. So that was also good to see. Rather in Bollywood itself, there were 2 to 3 films which are there. I guess out of which Zero is the movie which you have seen.
Yeah.
Yes. Would you like to tell us about that?
So Zero has actually tried to deal with 2 things. One is the protagonist Shah Rukh Khan is having a growth hormone deficiency or something, because of which he is a short-statured person. And the other thing is that the other actress, Anushka Sharma, she has cerebral palsy, but it is without intellectual disability, and that's why rather she is a person who is working in NASA. She is a scientist. So, but she has been shown to be quadriplegic. That is, all her arms and limbs, upper limbs and lower limbs, both do not have enough power and function, and that's why she is dependent. But even after facing those kind of difficulties, she has achieved to her full potential, that she has become a scientist and being part of NASA. So it's a fictional story, masala Bollywood movie. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt. But interesting take of taking 2 disabilities together and making a movie on that.
Right.
Which is the other movie, Bollywood or Indian movie that you have seen?
Yes, I have seen Margarita with a Straw, and it is based, or it is rather inspired from this book, which is written by Malini Chib, One Little Finger. In this movie, which we see is a girl who aspires to do well in her career, who then ends up going to London, studying abroad, and what challenges she faces in her relationships, romantic relationships, what are the gender related aspects which she explores, and of course then how socialization is impacted because she is not able to move, how out of sympathy there is one live performance, and then they announce that yes, the prize goes to this girl's team because she is with disability, and how she just how she then answers them very nicely in a correct way. that is interesting to see. In that movie, they have really taken efforts in portraying a character who would not look like a cartoon, but we can really understand the depths of that person's thinking process, how that person is beautiful in way of expression, way of dealing with relationships. Also, we get to see what are the environmental modifications or rather universal designs which are required to support or to include the person with cerebral palsy. Like in a poster also we see a different straw which is twisted so that she can easily access it. Then there is a wheelchair. Then when she goes abroad, we see what kind of different buses, what kind of different roads, or even in India, we see that what kind of support system is created so that people will have to lift her, take her to the places, and so on. Rather in this, the mother herself has curated a van where she can push her wheelchair inside that van and how they can travel together. So many interesting things are there in this film to watch. And before I started this movie, I thought, oh, it would be a serious movie. It would take me into depths of thinking. But when I watched it, I was really inspired, and I felt that it is very balanced movie. So at any kind of mood, a person can watch this film.
Yeah. And as you said about the mood, I would like to say that when we were exploring various movies, so I found that there are many movies out there and many are based in the humor genre. So comedy or humor, that is how they have taken this disability, which is, I feel, very, very empowering, because for humor, you need to look beyond the disability, because if you are only focusing on disability, there is a chance of having pity or concern about the person. But when you go beyond it and you are able to put humor in it, then of course we are going beyond the disability and we are seeing the human being over there. So that's a very good representation that we are finding for cerebral palsy in various films. And one example of humor I would like to give is Speechless. So it's a TV series wherein there are, I think, 4 seasons of it, wherein there is a family in which the eldest son has cerebral palsy. He's a quadriplegic, so he is on a motorized wheelchair all the time, and he is also speechless. That is, he does not have verbal language. That's why either he uses some amount of gestures with little movement of his hands. And in addition to that, like I mentioned about Bryan, similarly here also he uses his eyes. There is an alphabet grid on which there are some alphabets and also common words. So to his specs, there is one particular laser beam is there. So with the help of the laser beam, he shows that which word he is pointing, and then the person understands that what he is speaking. So even after having all these kind of difficulties, this particular drama series has an element of humor. Also, there are other elements like how the mother is continuously fighting for representation of her child in the high school, how the siblings sometimes feel, included, excluded from the concern of parents, and how other aspects of gender, race, and everything have also been taken with bits and pieces in this series. So it's a very good series to explore, and it is available on Disney Hotstar.
Yes, very fascinating, right? All these resources are they make us better human, I feel, at times, because we come to know some spirit which is there in parents, maybe in persons with disabilities, that just takes us on another level, and we also feel inspired to do more in wherever we are, whatever we are doing. Yeah,
right. That's true. That's true.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was, like you said about the spirit, so I felt that the spirit is not just in the person with disability or the family who is dealing with the disability. The spirit is also in the people around. So when we talk of society in general, the spirit is surely there. It is just that we need to put light on it. And for that, I would like to give an example of just a small 9-minute animated movie, which all of us can just search on YouTube and find it. The good thing is there are no dialogues in it. And secondly, it's animated, and the name of the movie is Ian, Ian, Ian. So it is based on a child who has cerebral palsy, and they have shown that how this child is regularly taken to the garden, and he's outside the garden watching all other children playing, and daily he imagines that he will someday go over there and play with them. But then he feels that in his imagination, he feels that other kids will make fun of him, will laugh on him, and then there's a disappointment, and his mother then again takes him home. After some repeated these kind of exposures, finally he gets that motivation. No, I have to go, and he goes there. And when he goes there, kids respond to him, and rather they support him. So how it is just about the perception that we have, and ifs and buts. Unless and until we are going to try, the inclusion is not going to happen. So it has to come from both sides. So families should also take one step, and society in general should also take one step. So it's a very beautiful, with no words. So it depends on you how you interpret it. Just a 9-minute movie.
Yes, I'll definitely give it a try and watch this film. So are there many other resources which we would like to mention?
I think we have covered a few over here, and like we said that there are many out there, so we would like our audience to search for more, and they could write in the comment section about it, that what all other books and films they have explored in and around cerebral palsy.
Yes, and they can also let us know how was their experience of watching these films or reading this literature, because at times I feel that we keep on searching, like being a professional in this field, we search, but it is also possible that someone from other professional comes across some some resource which is not like looked upon by us, which is missed by us, and it is fascinating to then understand that other person's perspective, and know that yes, there are many resources, many people who have been speaking about it. So it would be really good if all of you let us know how was your experience, and then we can keep adding it to the resource which we have. Yeah.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
On this note, I would like to end today's conversation, and we will be coming up with one more disability very soon, and we will be announcing about it, and we will be posting our video on Speak with Sonali. And for that also, we will be in support with Reading Kida Library, and we are very, very grateful for that. You can also visit Reading Kida Library's Instagram page and Facebook page, and you can always approach Dr. Pallavi for knowing more about it.
Yes, absolutely. We would be more than happy to help and be part of your journey of exploring various disabilities through books and films.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.